happens when a Western trained doctor at the top of his field finds himself in a moment where science just isn't enough? Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Journey. I'm your host, Sana, and today in this episode, I am sitting down with Dr. Patrick Tran. He's a double board certified dermatologist and surgeon who made a radical pivot when life handed him the unthinkable, his 2-year old son's cancer diagnosis. And in that moment, listeners, all the medical tools he had trained for years to master felt powerless. And so he turned to something unexpected: energy healing. And today, Dr. Tran shares how he crossed the great divide between science and soul, and how he now helps high performers tap into their life force not through spiritual bypassing, but through structured Kundalini work that respects the body's trauma, rhythm, and intelligence. So, listeners, this conversation isn't about choosing between medicine or mysticism. It is about weaving both to heal in a way that's real, embodied, and deeply personal. So, if you have ever felt like you are doing all the quote unquote right things, but you still feel disconnected, this one's for you. And Dr. Patrick, welcome to the show. And I'm absolutely honored to have you here with us.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you for holding the space and allowing me to share my message.
Absolutely, Dr. Patrick. The journey, it's such a personal, it's a lived experience, and I'm really really happy that we are going to have this conversation on blending science and soul, not just choosing any one of them. And before we explore how we can balance both of them, or how we can leverage the intersection of both of them, about you, Dr. Patrick, you were operating in a world which is defined by clinical precision and evidence. It's all practical. What was the exact moment you realized that the world couldn't fully support you or your son?
Well, I want to clarify something. My son's cancer diagnosis, it was
Mhm,
very devastating, obviously, but
mhm,
that wasn't what triggered my uh, shift in frame and
mhm,
perspective. My awakening spiritually began a couple of years before. Now, the cancer diagnosis doubled down on that and forced me to find grace in a moment of sheer agony. And we
mhm,
can go into that story more, but I like
yeah,
to first um, describe what really opened me and kind of awakened my Kundalini and started. So that was in, I'll say 2020, about 5 years ago. I sat with a sacred plant medicine in a ceremony, and that shattered my frame of mind. There's
mhm,
no explanation in Western medicine and science to ex- to describe the things that I saw, the awareness and consciousness states that I experienced. It is
mhm,
only something that I found through ancient wisdom, sacred medicines, and through Kundalini work in my lifetime since then, in my 5 years. Um,
mhm,
so that's what told me, because before that, I was, if you envision your stereotypical surgeon,
mhm.
I thought I was God. I knew everything. Uh, I was totally logical. Everything
Yeah.
outside of a randomized controlled trial was bullshit to me. And
Mhm,
all these energy practices, whatever, they were woo woo.
mm,
They were, outside the realm of my perspective. But after basically the medicine told me, "You don't know shit. You don't know anything."
Yeah.
Um, and after that, my personality changed. I was more open. People immediately noticed at work. They're like, "Did something happen? Like, why are you being nice all of a sudden?" Um, so there's a dramatic shift in my personality, my way of looking at things, and kind of started me on this path of spirituality and accepting that, what we see in the three-dimensional world maybe is not all we get,
Mm,
and that there's an energetic underpinning to everything that happens.
true, true. That, I mean, that is such a beautiful explanation. I could actually picture, um, the huge realization which had dawned upon you when you realized that all that I had, or I have the rationality, the logical explanation of everything, it has all been shattered. And it can be devastating initially, but it's such a humbling experience, Dr. Patrick. And I can sense that, when you were describing.
Yeah, that's one way to sum it up in a word. It's humbling.
Mm. Oh, that's really, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Patrick. And uh, now, if you can, uh, like give us a quick glimpse of, how the events unfolded for you and your son, and I mean, yeah, it can be. It's a very personal and very critical, um, realization, especially when your loved ones are affected. However, if it's okay with you, Dr. Patrick.
Yeah, so basically the year after, um, in in 2021, my son was diagnosed with a cancer, and
Hmm.
the way it happened is he he grew like a bulge on one side of his tummy, and, it's noticeably different. The left side was more full than the right,
Okay.
and it was subtle at first, and looking back at it, looking at photos, I can see the progression. Like,
Okay.
his belly looked a little fuller in maybe December of 2020,
Okay.
and his face started to lose the roundness and become more defined over the next few couple of months. Um,
Okay.
and so it was in February, early February, that, it was like dramatic enough
Hmm.
that I brought him to his pediatrician.
Hmm.
Because before, he was fine. I mean, he was fine the entire time. He's running around playing and laughing and so full of joy. You would never suspect that there was anything going on with him with his physical health. Um, but then after seeing the his pediatrician, we were pretty quickly sent to I think on that call, because it was during COVID and you weren't going into to normal clinic visits. Um, he immediately called on the specialist, and then we came up with a plan to do some labs, get some imaging, take him to get his X-ray. So I brought him to get his X-ray, and I'm a doctor, so
Hmm.
once you shot the image, typically people have to wait. But I was fortunate to have medical training, and I could just look over the shoulder at the technician and say, "Hey, can I take a look?"
Okay.
And there, on the plain radiograph, I saw it, the
Mm.
tumor, it's and I knew it was bad. I knew there was something wrong.
Mhm.
And I was probably in denial a little bit beforehand, but you can't deny it when you see it.
Yeah.
So things moved quickly after that. Um, you had to get a CT scan, have surgery to remove the cancer, and radiation afterward,
Mhm.
and then like 6 or 9 months of chemotherapy, which is a lot for a 21-month-old, not even 2 years old at that time.
That's really, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Um, I mean, Dr. Patrick, first of all, I absolutely um admire your you know courage and it's like so many feelings together. There's a parent's vulnerability, um, seeing their child, at such a young age. I mean, 21 months. It's really, really, really young. I mean, sometimes even logic cannot answer the questions, um, arising within us. I mean, it really requires a lot of courage and vulnerability. And I really, really, once again, thank you. And secondly, yes, and I believe that this is the time, when science won't even give you that courage and resilience. It's your own inner self, or your own spirit that will, hold you up. So, when you got to know for the first time, Dr. Patrick, did you immediately think about the way forward, or were you questioning why did this happen? What was the reason behind this? What should I do? I mean, what were your first initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was first of all, I was devastated. And
Mhm.
no, like it's every parent's worst nightmare to imagine their child sick or even potentially dying before them.
Mm.
And the other thing that was even worse news. So, first of all, pediatric cancer is rare,
Okay.
um, very rare. And
Mm.
the type of cancer that he had, so there's a more common type of kidney cancer called a Wilms tumor. That's like I learned about that in medical school, so that's what I thought it was.
Mhm.
But once the surgeon cut it out and the pathologist looked at it under the microscope, it turns out it was something even rarer than that, called clear cell sarcoma of the kidney. And those are more aggressive tumors. They have worse outcomes. They require more treatment.
Mm.
So it was completely out of left field for me because I had some certainty in a moment of uncertainty or
Mhm.
I thought I had certainty from my medical
Mhm.
knowledge and background, right?
Mhm.
Having
Mhm.
my medical training allowed me to navigate the system and understand everything much more easily than like a layperson would. But even so, it's still my son, and the it it's a true role reversal because my specialty is cutting out skin cancer like melanoma, and
Mm.
I never thought about or never experienced being on the other side, you know.
Mhm.
And it made me again, it humbled me
Yeah.
and showed me the sacredness of doing surgery. Like I put so much I had to put so much trust and faith and hope into the surgeon who took care of my son to hope that he would get the cancer out in one piece and it not spread anywhere. Um, so yeah, that was quite the experience.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Patrick. And um, coming back to Kundalini, I mean, you speak of Kundalini in a very different way than what many of us might have seen on uh, through different sources. Could be YouTube or social media, or maybe in the wellness circles as well. So, what exactly is meant by structured Kundalini?
That's just a term that I use to describe my activation process. Um, I think that Kundalini, so if to briefly describe it, Kundalini energy is talked about in many ways, and depending on your experience with it, um, you'll call it different things. People call it different things.
Mm,
Some people call it Shakti,
mhm,
some people call it source energy, life force energy, serpentine energy. Some people believe it has galactic sources and it's cosmic energy. And whatever that energy means to you is perfect because maybe it's a different flavor of the same thing. Um, and I guess what I'd like to say about it is it's very powerful,
mhm,
but it's your birthright. Everyone has this. It's in the Hindu traditions described or thought of as a serpent that sits at the base of the spine and when it's activated, shoots up. Um, and in that process, there's like a purification. And the things that no longer serve you, the energy that's stuck in your body releases. And that's where you see videos maybe on YouTube or Instagram, social media of Kundalini activating practitioners not touching their client, but generating very dramatic at times movements, shaking, crying,
mm,
releases.
mm,
These are called Kundalini Kriyas, and they can take any form. As the energy flows, you can take those spontaneous and seemingly involuntary movements, energetic purging in the form of sounds like sighing or screaming, even the
mm.
sound of cracking a joint.
Yeah.
Some people take yoga poses, and this is like yoga came from that. People were forced into, not forced, but the energy rose in such a way that your body wants to move into that posture. Sometimes people dance or they'll do mudras, which are like hand positions.
Yes.
Some people tone or sing. You can have emotional release, catharsis, like crying or kicking the legs or beating the fists. And thought forms can arise. Old stories, past emotions, and memories coming up to the surface. So, those are some of the common symptoms, if you will, or experiences of energetic release.
Mm,
And whatever comes up, comes up. And it's important to not fight it, to accept and surrender into the experience. And that's true of all of life.
mm. That is I think very um, simple yet such a mindful way of explaining about Kundalini, because uh, it can be different for anyone. Maybe past trauma or some kind of traumatic life experience, um, childhood experiences, adulthood experiences. Yeah, and the effects can be really really different. And also, Dr. Patrick, since you work with high performers, high achievers, isn't there a risk that energy work, it just kind of becomes another form of achievement or optimization, something to master instead of something to feel?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Mhm.
Anything can be can take that form, and that's when you let your ego get into it. And anything that's truly awakening or activating to your energetic system, you learn to shed those layers of your ego and not take on those labels. So yes, you can take on a form of egoic chasing the high, 'cause it's
Mhm.
great. You can have blissful experiences. You can experience oneness with everything, connection to divinity, and totally sober. No ayahuasca, no bufo, no psychedelic. You get these, and that's very powerful. But the true embodiment is in the integration. What happens after when you come back to reality? How do you embody that in your every waking moment? How can you navigate through life with grace, surrendering, and letting go?
Surrendering and letting go. I think, many people they associate surrendering or letting go with weakness. Maybe a weak mental strength. However, I absolutely believe it's something, like when a river settles, the water is still. When you have that clarity, when you can actually see the bottom of the river. So I kind of associate surrendering with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. I think of it like a river, and the more baggage, if you will, trauma, etc., stuff that you have in it, like these are like boulders in the river, and they block its movement, like the energetic movement. And
Mhm.
when we activate and surrender and let go, we're lifting those obstacles. You, unblock the dam and you can flow freely.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, Dr. Patrick, I think this question is very, very important. This discussion is very important. That some critics may argue that yeah, and especially this is very common around plant medicine, energy healing. It's kind of just a placebo effect, or worse, dangerous when used as an alternative to conventional treatment. So, as someone who is coming from the medical background, I mean, how do you respond to that skepticism, especially given your own personal story?
Yeah, great question. First of all, you cannot explain what is directly experienced. There's no framework in Western medicine. Um, your whole perspective is just based on the accumulation of your life's experiences. So until you've experienced it, no amount of explaining or words will get you to understand it. It's something that's known, and actually it's a remembering because it's where you come from. Um, and in regards to, is it just placebo? There's a reason that in randomized controlled trials you have a placebo group, because
Mm,
taking a placebo, taking like a sugar pill, if you will, the
mm,
placebo still has a beneficial effect. So the act of believing already can improve the symptoms and help with the disease. Um, so even if it is just placebo, that's powerful unto itself. I mean, you are the placebo. Your mind creates your reality.
That's true. That's true. Oh, and it's such a wonderful, and it's like a CPU. It's like a processor inside you, and the deeper you go, the weirder, the interesting, super interesting things you explore. So, um, that's a wonderful answer, Dr. Patrick. And finally, for our listeners, they would like to connect with you and explore the work you are doing around Kundalini and also helping high performers, high achievers tap into their inner self, life force. What would be the best way?
Yeah, I have a website. It's patricktran.com, patricktran.com, and that has all my social media links on the page. So you can connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, TikTok, Twitter. But I'd say I'm most active on Instagram.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to add all the links in the show notes, Dr. Patrick. And what strikes me about your story before I conclude is that you did not trade in your science for spirituality, but it was like, it complemented um, your, um, you know, expertise and your experiences, and you expanded your definition of healing. And it's really a very powerful takeaway for all of us. So thank you so, so much for this conversation.
You're welcome, and thanks again for having me. Look forward to connecting with
Yeah,
listeners.
absolutely. And to all the mindful listeners out there, healing isn't just about fixing, it's about feeling. And sometimes when the system we trust falls short, the body, the breath, and the energy we hold offer another way forward. So, a huge thank you to Dr. Patrick Tran for being with us today and sharing not just his expertise but his heart. And to listeners, thank you for tuning to this episode. You can learn more about Dr. Patrick's work. Just refer to the show notes along with this episode. Until next time, keep walking your mindful journey and remember that lives where science meets soul. Thank you so much.